Hey.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
He did what?
Jackpot, baby!
Ice up, son. Ice up.
That is blasphemous.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
So this segment, as I mentioned, we will be getting to the top teams that are most likely to go winless this season, not undefeated. The top 6 teams that I see most likely to go winless in the NFL this season. Now, again, this does not mean that I think these teams will go winless, as it's very rare that a winless season happens. But if there was a team to go winless, I think it would be one of these 6 teams. Now, first, I've got the Seattle Seahawks. And you might be wondering, wow, you think the Seattle Seahawks might have a chance to go winless this season? How come? They've got DK Metcalf, they've got Tyler Lockett, they just acquired Noah Fant in that Russell Wilson trade, but that is the exact problem, the Russell Wilson trade. They had a pretty good quarterback in Russ, and they traded him away, and okay, all right, they traded him away. It was the end of his time there in Seattle, and you might be looking at the offseason, you said, well, Matt Ryan was on the market. Carson Wentz was on the market. Deshaun Watson, suspended or not, we'll get into that a little bit. He was on the market. Baker Mayfield was on the market. The list goes on in terms of what quarterbacks were on the market this offseason. And the Seattle Seahawks wound up with none other than, drum roll please, that's right, the guy that they got in the trade for Russell Wilson. And that was none other than Drew Lock. And yeah, they have Geno Smith. Sure. Doesn't matter. It's like that Happy Gilmore scene when they talk about the gold jacket, green jacket, brown jacket. It does not matter whether it's Geno Smith or Drew Lock. It's going to be ugly for Seattle this season. And yeah, as I mentioned, they have DK Metcalf. They have Tyler Lockett. They have Noah Fant. But what good is it having those targets if you don't have anybody that can get them the ball? That's kind of important. You kind of need to have a quarterback under center that can throw the ball to those guys if they're even going to be a difference maker. And I'm sorry, but Geno Smith and Drew Lock are not exactly... I'm not buying it from them. Their defense as a whole is not too convincing either. Their offensive line, there's a lot of questions there. Pete Carroll's time in Seattle is probably coming to an end. And I think this has got to be the beginning of the end, or maybe it's even the end of the end for Pete Carroll in Seattle, because I think what's going to happen is, I'm not sure whether or not DK and Lockett and Fant are really going to stick around in Seattle too much longer, but I think Seattle, within the next 5 years, you look at a 3 to 5 year window for Seattle, they're going to go through a pretty big rebuild soon. I feel like that is right around the corner for the Seattle Seahawks. They've got, they're going to need a new quarterback soon. They're going to need a lot of work on defense. They're going to need probably some work on that offensive line. They're going to need a running back. They are going to need a lot of work. And nothing against Pete Carroll. I think he's a great coach, but, I don't know if you really want to go through that full rebuild with a coach who is probably within the next 10 years going to retire anyway. Seattle, I don't think it's going to be a good year for Seattle, but it'll be interesting to see, how Seattle will do without Russell Wilson. The second team I think has a chance to go winless or are not going to win very many games this season is the Chicago Bears. And there are a lot of question marks for Chicago this season. They've got a new coach, Matt Eberflus, however you want to pronounce his name. That's the guy who has the headset for Chicago. Not sure how that's going to go. And the reason I have so many questions about that is now it's another defensive-minded coach for a team that needs about as much help as you can need on the offensive side of the ball. Defense for Chicago has never really been a huge problem. They've had some really good guys on defense throughout the past few years, and yeah, they traded them away, but, they don't really have those big names now, but they've always been pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. Offense has been the raging questions. That's where there has been a lot of problems. And now having another defensive-minded coach take the headset, I'm not really sure how that's going to go, because you look at the offense, and you've got Justin Fields, who, he can make some plays. He's a great playmaker, so on and so forth. That's great, right? He's got mobility. He's got a pretty decent arm. His decision-making is probably not where you want it to be right now if you're a Bears fan. But you could be a lot worse. You could have Drew Lock or Geno Smith. You at least have a guy who's young. You're starting that process, and who knows what's going to happen from there. You at least have got something started. I think the only saving grace for them is that they have to play the Lions twice a year, right? I think the only thing that's keeping them from going winless is they'll probably beat the Lions 1 out of 2 times. I would think. So Chicago, it's going to be rough. It's going to be tough, and it's not going to be good. The third team that is going to have a lot of struggles this season are the New York Giants. And I've never been a big believer in Danny Dimes, if you really want to call him that, or Daniel Jones. But there are a lot of questions for this team. And sure, Daniel Jones, it's really easy to it's easy to jump on him when you see those videos of him failing in the in the preseason, in the training camp, in the workouts, in the practices, all that stuff. It's easy to hop on the Daniel Jones stinks train and Giants are going to go winless train when you see those videos. But and it's funny because people always ask me, leading up to the season, what do you think about this? What do you think about this guy? What do you think about this team? He looked pretty good in preseason last night. And I don't know. I'm a little bit different than everybody else. A lot of people will, really start to dive into the preseason, and they'll look at these, training camps and the workouts, and they'll, what's that mean for the season? And I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit different in the aspect that I don't really think that any of that really matters. The only thing that really matters is when toe touches leather in week 1. Brian Dable, the new coach, there's a question there. And like I said earlier, there's going to be a question anytime there's a new coach in town. Saquon, is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to play an entire season in a Giants uniform? That's a big question. Until they get some players, I'm not going to think anything different from the Giants. I still see another 4-win season for them at most. Again, until they get a new quarterback, a real quarterback that's going to be the future there, until they get, some players on defense, until they get some good offensive linemen, and until they get some good wide receivers, I don't know that the Giants are going to win too many games. My next team is the Houston Texans for pretty obvious reasons. Davis Mills, I'm not sold on him yet. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible. I'm not saying he's going to be the worst quarterback in the world, but I'm not sold on him. I don't know that he's really the future in Houston. I'm not really sure that he's the guy, I'm not really sure that you look 5 years down the line and Davis Mills is still suiting up for week 1 at the beginning of the season. That being said, I'm open to him having a good season. I'm not ruling that out. But you look at their roster, and maybe it's just because it's been a few months since we've played football. I looked at the Houston Texans roster today, and I think I could name on one hand, I could say, oh yeah, I know who that is, looking at the players. And that was their kicker. That was Davis Mills. That's 2 players. Rex Burkhead. And the only reason I know him is because he played on the Patriots 5 years ago. I know he was on the team last year as well. And then they got Brandon Cooks and Chris Conley. Those are the 5 players. And again, I'm exaggerating. I'm sure there's more than 5 players on the roster that I can remember and that I can recall. But, you look at their roster, and it is not exactly stacked. My last 2 teams are the New York Jets and the Atlanta Falcons. And the New York Jets just have a lot going on right now. I think Robert Saleh is a great coach. I think if he's given the chance, he could be the guy for this rebuild. However, we know from previous Jets experience, they had Todd Bowles. And, when he was the coach there, I didn't think he was all that bad. I really didn't think that Todd Bowles was all that bad. They didn't give him much of a chance. And, look what he's doing now with Tampa Bay. Now he's going to be Bowles is going to be the head coach of Tampa Bay now, so we'll see how that goes. And if it is a good season, now, yes, I know you're probably saying, well, let me stop you right there. Don't forget that the Bucs have Tom Brady and the Jets do not and did not when Bowles was the coach there. Okay, I get it. All right. However, Todd Bowles, I liked him. I thought he was great when he was with the Jets. The Jets may not have made the playoffs. They may not have, had a winning season, but I mean, it was what, one season, right? How much can you expect from a guy in one season? And I thought, again, I thought for that season that he was there, I thought he was pretty good. If they would have given him a chance, maybe they would have had something there, but that is a moot point now. If they give Salah a chance, I think he could be the guy for the future. The only question I have is Zach Wilson. Both, whether he's healthy or not, I have questions about him. I have questions about him now. Is he going to be ready for week 1? And if he's not ready for week 1, it's going to be a rough year because I don't know if Joe Flacco is a guy that can take that team and win 7 games or, at the minimum. If Zach Wilson can make a step up this year, if he's healthy, I'm not saying that the Jets are going to contend for playoffs, but they're probably going to do a little bit better than they did last year. Maybe, right? Maybe, possibly, who knows? The Atlanta Falcons are kind of one of those teams on this list that's kind of like honorable mention. I don't really think they're going to go winless. I think they're going to win a couple games this year. But their division's tough. They've got the Bucs. They've got the Saints, who might be good if Jameis Winston stays healthy. They've got the Panthers, who they're kind of when I say a wild card team, I don't mean I think they're going to make the wild card, but I mean they're a wild card team in the respect that who in the world knows what's going to happen with the Carolina Panthers with Baker Mayfield, the quarterback? That's really crazy. All that good stuff there. Will Christian McCaffrey stay healthy for a whole year? And if he does, what kind of, all of a sudden now the Panthers look like they might be pretty good. That's a tough division for Atlanta to win a game in. And, in terms of winning against their own division foes. Also, they've got Marcus Mariota is going to be the quarterback. They lost Matt Ryan. And Mariota's a guy that I'm not exactly saying, he's terrible, he stinks, he's not going to be able to win any games for them. But Mariota's also a guy that I'm not saying, he's going to go and give you 8 wins. In that division, at least, probably not. They've got Kyle Pitts, and a lot of people have been hyped up about Kyle Pitts, ever since he got drafted. I think for Kyle Pitts, he needs to transform himself from a tight end into a wide receiver. And I know that tight ends are becoming a little more athletic in the modern day NFL. They're becoming, I don't want to say smaller, but they're becoming slimmer. They're not just big guys. They're not just offensive linemen that can also catch the ball. Because that's kind of what tight ends, for the most part, were in the past 15 years of NFL. Now they're becoming more athletic guys that can, not only block, but they can catch, but they can, get some pretty good yards after the catch, so on and so forth. You see guys like, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Those guys were very few and far between prior to this era of tight end in the NFL. Kyle Pitts, though, still I don't think has the size to be a tight end in the NFL. I think if he were to transform himself into change to a wide receiver, I might be a little more accepting to believing, Kyle Pitts might have a pretty good season this year. I'd be a little bit more on board with that. The other thing I question about the Falcons is, Mariota's, I believe, to my knowledge, he's the week 1 starter. Last I heard he is. How long are they going to let him be the starter? You know what I mean? How long are they going to go before they say, you know what, Mariota's not going to be here in the next 5-10 years. Why are we letting him start? Throw Desmond Ritter out there. kind of similar to what we saw with the Chargers with Tyrod Taylor. Like, sure, he was the week 1 starter, but at the end of the day, everybody's like, well, how long is he really going to be the starter? It's only a matter of time until Justin Herbert gets the nod. And, you know, we saw the same thing with the Dolphins with Tua. You know, that's kind of what I'm getting at. How long is Mariota going to really be the starter? Are they just waiting till Desmond Ridder starts wowing in practice? You know, and then they're just going to say, well, you know, hey, he's done pretty good in practice. He's been getting first team reps. He's probably going to be the guy in the future, you know, at least as of right now. Why not throw him out there? We're not going to do anything this season anyway. So, you know, that's the thing. And then once he gets out there, again, there's a lot of questions on that side of the ball. I think they could win a couple games. I don't think I look at them and I'm like, oh yeah, they're most likely to go winless. I look at this list, and if there's any team on this list that is like number 1 most likely to go winless, it's got to be the Houston Texans for me, because they just are not very convincing. Their roster just is like, there's no words that I can think of that describe how bad and how ugly the roster looks for the Houston Texans.